And I told them here there are two areas or two responsibilities of people that will make a decision. Either it is the party, but it is also myself to make a decision whether I'm actually ready to take on the job, the responsibility they were handing to me. And I insisted, finally, we had to have somebody else in our party to be the president.
Yeah.
Then the discussion was there to say, what do you become then? And I said, I was happy to continue leading the fighters that I had been leading, and that's how I became the Minister of Defense then, and in the same party as my own party and other parties discussed and thought they needed to create another position for me. Since I had refused being the president, they suggested they could create a position of vice president. Oh, I said, well, fine. If you agree that I don't become... So it was a bargain. I said, well, since you've accepted that I don't become president, I'm ready to become whatever else you decide.
Okay.
And that's how I became the vice president.
Yes. All right. I once heard you say, for violence to end or reconciliation to happen, somebody has to absorb the pain. I thought that was pretty profound. Somebody has to absorb the pain. Talk to me a little bit about what that means.
Well, the pain somehow has to be absorbed for the sake of shaping our future. And the moment you broaden this absorbing of the pain to cover as many people as possible, maybe in the end you create grounds for being able to move forward.
How important is truth-telling in reconciliation? And talk to us about the Gacaca courts. Let me explain to the people here is that Rwanda, because he would not allow the retaliation, he said, no, we're going to take these through their normal process of justice. We're going to take them through the courts. So Rwanda has the second highest prison population in the world, second only to America. And the reason why is because they were taking these people through the rule of law rather than just automatically saying, you're a bad guy, we're going to kill you. So that is, when you've had 1 million people killed, there were obviously at least 1 million perpetrators.
Yes.
And so you've got a major part of your population is guilty. And talk to me about truth and the community courts and how the reconciliation of Rwanda used your culture to...
Yes. Truth-telling is very important. It is associated with introspection. It means people examine themselves and they don't have to wait for somebody else to tell them what is wrong or right, or where they've made mistakes or this. People start examining themselves, and when they come out and tell the truth, it's already a signal that they are part of peacemaking process. It means they are ready to abandon what they've been involved in that has created these problems and ready to move forward. That's one part. The other part is educational, because when people tell the truth, they are not only building that from introspection, but they're also letting others know exactly what happened and possibly why it happened. And from that, people are able to learn, are able to understand, and maybe think of how to be able to move forward in a different direction.
How do you get people to tell the truth? I mean, if I've killed a bunch of people and I know where they're buried and nobody else knows where they're buried, and the rest of the family would like to know where they're buried so they could obviously have the remains and things. What is the motivation to get people to tell the truth who were the perpetuators of the...
You have to create a conducive environment. And that's why in our case, in the case of Rwanda, reconciliation and justice have been going hand in hand. They've been moving together. These are complex processes. Sometimes they are even in a sense antagonistic, but one encourages the other to happen and to move on. So, the question you asked about our traditional systems and others which we use, gacaca courts have been used in our society, in Rwanda, for decades, if not centuries, because actually Rwanda has been a nation state for centuries. So our society is not a very young society.
It's an old society.
It's a very old society with cultural values, with traditions and so on. And gacaca means, and this was the way of our society resolving disputes or misunderstandings as of old, where people would sit in the open in a compound somewhere and discuss their problems and settle disputes. When there were grievances between parties, they would sit them there and hear from what they have to say.
Would the whole community sit down?
The community that is the part of the community that is affected.
The part of the community that's affected by the crime.
Yes,
okay.
Say the village.
The village, all right.
And the village would have elders who are respected
elders.
for various reasons. And these would be selected to adjudicate over these cases.
Okay.
And people would sit there and tell the truth as they know it. They would hear from both sides that have such a dispute. And then these elders would decide on the basis of what they have heard from these people.
How old was this tradition of elders and a community court?
Very old. It's a very old part of our tradition.
Okay.
That's why I said it was probably running a couple of centuries. And the result would be not only to know who is wrong and who is right. Actually, the other important part was to reconcile these people who have been having a dispute. And they would give penalties, some of them symbolic. They would tell people to get up and shake hands, and they would say, you are wrong, you should give a cow or this to the other one, and bring them together. So there would be justice, there would be reconciliation, and that's what gacaca symbolizes. Gacaca is about people being there, the accused, the victims, and have a kind of dialogue or discussion. And what has happened practically in our case, the perpetrators sometimes have straight away shown remorse and apologized and said, this is exactly what happened, this is what I did.
You can see genuine repentance in them.
Genuine, and start giving information. Sometimes they would tell where the people who were killed or where they have been buried for the relatives to go and give them a decent burial. And this will take place.